Welcome to the Sideload, where we're rebooting the Fast and the Furious to be about stealing PC components, not VCRs. I'm your host, Will Sattelberg. This month, we have back-to-back 9 to 5 episodes as we welcome Damien Wilde back onto the program. Damien needs no introduction if you're watching or listening to this, but today's topic might. We're talking about the RAMpocalypse and how to buy gadgets during the RAMpocalypse. Because if you haven't noticed, prices are continuing to rise. Some gadgets by $500 to $600 overnight. It is getting increasingly difficult to buy a new computer, a new smartphone. Game consoles are getting especially hit. So we're going to dive into all of that, what we're doing to help minimize the impact that rising prices are having on the market, what you can do, and where we think all of this is going. That all starts right after this word from our sponsor, NordVPN. You're probably already trying your best at online security. You don't repeat passwords, you're careful about where you log into your bank account, and anytime you get a weird email, you are always careful if there's a link involved. But if you aren't browsing the web with a VPN, you're missing out on a crucial layer of protection, and that's where NordVPN comes in. Without NordVPN, your IP address and browsing habits are an open book to your internet service provider and potential bad actors on public Wi-Fi. NordVPN helps fix that by encrypting your internet traffic so what you're doing isn't just floating around the network. With more than 9,000 VPN servers covering more than 188 locations, it's also built to stay fast, so you're not stuck choosing between security and a usable connection. And it comes with features that actually matter day to day. Threat protection helps block malicious sites and trackers, while a built-in kill switch helps prevent accidental leaks if your VPN connection drops. If you want to stop risking your data on public Wi-Fi, and trust me, you do, you can save 76% on a 2-year subscription, plus score 4 additional months for free, just by going to nordvpn.com/9to5off and signing up for a 2-year subscription. That's nordvpn.com/9to5off to claim this offer. Thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this show. I'm so excited to welcome back to the show Damien Wilde, 9 to 5's own Damien Wilde. I am sure if you were watching this on YouTube, you are very familiar with Damien, and if you've listened to the show for a while, because I think this is your third time.
Possibly the third time. Yeah.
I'm very excited to welcome you back. Although we are talking about, I think maybe not the most stressful thing going on in the world right now, but certainly a stressful element of the world. Which is price hikes. We are going to talk about the state of technology prices and what you can do, what any of us can do about it, what the future holds for gadget prices moving forward. It's a tricky subject because it's moving so fast, but it's also one that it's been 6 months, right, since this RAM crisis started, and we are now really seeing the effects of it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that we're having these other issues with regards to global war and insecurity around access to certain things because of this. I mean, I believe it all hinges on the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes.
So there is probably
feels very COVID-y.
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's a pot of different factors all combining into one bad state of the market. It's here we go again. All of these production lines intercepted or components that are missing. I mean, I remember I leased a new vehicle in 2022 at the time, and I was for an entire year leading up to it, I was I'm not going to be able to lease a car because there's not going to be any chips for it. And it ended up fine, but it's it's one of those things that it's so stressful when you're I know I might need to do this purchase in 6 months, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, whether it's because of the price or availability or a secret third thing.
I mean, it just definitely feels like there is a reckoning coming, if that makes sense. But at the same time, I think if you're clever about how you make your purchases, you might be able to get some decent deals on certain things. I mean, I don't know the exact price hikes of certain brands out there now.
Let me give you the state of play.
Okay,
and we can talk from there because I have this written down. So this is not a definitive list because that would be incredibly difficult. But this is a list I put together from 2 Google searches. That's it. And it's mostly from stuff over the last like 2 weeks to a month.
Okay.
This is the news cycle.
Okay.
So here we go. So the big one, Samsung boosted its prices on basically all of its flagship gadgets, though it has kept most of its damage to higher storage tiers. So the Fold 7, Flip 7, the S25 FE, the S25 Edge have all seen various degrees of price hikes, but really only at their high. So if it starts at 256, the price hikes have mostly hit the 512 model. And
That's
higher.
really interesting. That's really interesting. It's almost like they've attuned for the storage and RAM crisis.
Yes.
But at the top end.
I think what they're trying to do is keep their starting price unchanged, right? Like, I think it's a really, I mean, also it does minimize, maybe they have research that the bulk of people buy the entry level model anyway. So they can sort of pass those price hikes on to higher end consumers, which is shady. Or maybe they have the opposite and they know that most people buy the higher storage ones anyway. And so they'll just leave the cheaper ones alone. I don't know. But that is the move they've decided to take. And I think it's interesting because they're kind of alone in it. Like, we haven't seen most other companies, we'll keep going through the list. So Samsung has also raised prices on the Tab S11 series, the Tab S10 FE and FE Plus, the budget Tab A11 Plus, a bunch of other Android tablets. I wasn't going to write every model down. And then the Galaxy Book 6 and 6 Pro and 6 Ultra, $200 to $600 depending on the model, more than previous, except for there's like one model that didn't get a price hike, but everything else $200 to $600 more. That's Samsung. Sony raised the prices on its standard PS5 by $100 for the disc and discless versions, as well as $150 for the PS5 Pro, which is now $900 in the US. Crazy.
I mean, it's crazy because what is even more crazy to say out loud is that it's a 6-year-old console. Like that, it blows my mind that the PS5 came out 6 years ago. Like, I cannot believe.
Yeah.
When somebody said to me the other day, they were like, do you play your PS5 very often? I was like, kind of here and there. There's a few games I want to get into. And I was talking about, I think it was God of War Ragnarok. And I was like, I kind of want to play it, but it took me a long time to get the PS5. And I kind of felt like I'd had it for a year, but I've had it for 5 years. And I was like, where have those 5 years gone, for a start? Secondly, how are Sony, because I get it that they're potentially passing on the costs that they've soaked up, but they have the biggest selling console right now, apart from the Switch. I guess we can get into that in a little bit, but like, how is it increasing so rapidly in price? Like, that makes no sense. This has never happened in the history of consoles before, right? Surely not.
Not that I can. So it's, I believe it's the PS5 Slim, which is back to 825 gigabytes instead of a full terabyte, which is what my launch era PS5 is at as well, even though I think it was advertised as a full terabyte. So, it is what it is. Yeah. But I mean, that thing is $500, and which is what I paid for my PS5, but no, that's without a disc drive, right?
That's crazy.
And then if you want the disc drive, it's $600, or I guess you could buy it on its own, right? And then, but I mean, God, the PS5 Pro being $900, like, it was already ridiculous at $700. It was ridiculous at $750. It's like, it's funny. I'd finally gotten to like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is like one of those games that is fine on the regular PS5, but like looks really good on the Pro. And I did have that moment of like, should I just, like, when they announced the price hikes, I was like, should I just go do this? Like, it was like, no, like, that's $750 for like, a handful of games that would be enhanced on it would be crazy. And then also it's like, I will probably, I didn't have a PS4 Pro. I went from the PS4 to the PS5 and then went back and played a bunch of PS4 games, and they're better. In fact, I'm playing through Kingdom Hearts 3, which is
I do think that
a PS4 game that is better on the PS5. Exactly. Yeah. So that's the PS5. And then to quickly run through the rest of these, Meta just raised the price of the Quest 3 and 3S by $50. The Surface Pro 11 and Surface Laptop 7 from Microsoft went up by $500 each.
What? I don't think that affects anybody, though, right? No one's buying those. I think you're a bad person if you do. I know. Get that laptops, that kind of money.
Raspberry Pi computers have seen increases as high as $150, though different from these other brands, the CEO has specifically said they are not permanent price hikes, that these are fluctuations in response to the component prices they can get, and that they will come back down when and if those component prices come back down. The Nets Playground, which is something you might not be super familiar with, but it is a family-friendly Kinect-like console that made a bunch of headlines over the holidays because it managed to outsell the Xbox during holiday 2025. It was like $200 or $250, and it's like a family-friendly like console with a camera in front that you play a bunch of Kinect-like games on.
That kind of makes sense, right?
It's now $300. And then two more. Walmart's this one's a little unofficial, but Walmart's new Google TV streamer has leaked. Someone managed to buy it early. It was $10 more, but also dropped down to USB 2.0 instead of 3.0, like on its predecessor. Small downgrade, but noticeable, especially next to a small price hike. And then finally, my beloved AYN Thor that I bring up almost every episode at this point. They just announced is getting the most premium model, which is the one I have, is getting $100 price hike to $550. And they are also swapping to UFS 3.1 because they can no longer source UFS 4.0 drives.
I mean, from a consumer perspective, price increases are irritating.
Yeah.
From a like the production perspective, it's inevitable that there'll be certain things that get more expensive and get cheaper over time. But at the same time, I'm like, what is your manufacturing capacity if you don't already have these things in stock? Like, for instance, looking at the PS5, talking about the PS5 briefly, they understand that there's potentially going to be demand for, say, let's just say an arbitrary figure of 10 million in a year. You would think that they would have at least 2 million of those on hand. So they could soak up enough time to wait for prices to decrease. I know it's not going to be exponentially so, but enough to maybe meet where they were originally and just keep the price the same. I guess for someone like AYN who make devices on a much smaller basis, they're a little bit more bespoke in that respect.
Right.
I can kind of understand that. The lack of storage, if they actually come out, did they come out and officially say that?
So basically in their post on Discord, they said UFS. So following the recent surge in DRAM pricing, we are now facing a difficult situation with UFS storage due to supply shortages and significant cost increases. UFS 4.0 is no longer available at a sustainable level. As a result, Thor and Odin 3 will transition to UFS 3.1 moving forward, starting with pre-order Thor Batch 6 and Odin 3 Batch 7.
That's crazy, because I guess this is going to create this new tier approach, and it almost devalues. Yeah. So if you have an existing one that's using UFS 4.0, you're going to get better performance, logically. Yeah. Does that then factor into AYN's development process for the device? Like if they do update, I don't know how they do updates, but I'm guessing like most handhelds are a little bit slower than usual. There's going to be so many aspects of this that change. So like, you are buying an inferior product. That's really that would annoy the hell out of me. And you're paying more for it. Oh, God.
And it's but at the same time, you're a small boutique brand. Like I get why you have to do this. Like and you know, similar to Raspberry Pi, being like being the one company that I saw that was like, we don't think these are permanent. Like we are just responding to the market. AYN also introduced a new configuration which has the 16 gigabytes of RAM from the top model that's going up $100, but cuts the storage in half to just 512 instead of a full terabyte. That is priced around where the previous top end model was at $469. I believe the top model was at $450 previously. So like they've tried to kind of be like, look, if you don't feel like you need a full terabyte of storage, but you want 16 gigabytes of RAM, you'll have to settle for that slower storage. But you know, we have this new option for you. It's got a micro SD card on it, so it's not like you can't add more storage.
Expand the storage, and I guess it's a good move. Fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's a as positive a move as you could make, but it's these small brands that you see making, you know, the more trying their best to be a little bit more consumer friendly with these changes while still having to raise prices, as opposed to, you know, your Microsofts who are like, $500 more for Surface, sorry, or like Samsung, who like quietly has just been updating the prices on their websites.
The annoyance for Samsung is that they make a lot of this storage anyway. I know that Samsung's divisions are completely separate from each other, like their imaging sector is separate from the phone line and whatever it is. But you would think that this would be the perfect opportunity for Samsung to be like, do you know what? Why don't we try and simplify the process that we have currently? We don't have to bid against external kind of brands to access our own hardware. Like Samsung kind of seems a bit egregious the way they've done it, given, like I say, they're responsible for lots of, I don't know how they make DDR actually, do they make DDR RAM? But I know that they definitely make storage. So they make those SODIMM slots as well for certain laptops. So I don't know, it kind of feels like a bit of an excuse on their part more so than anybody else, but I guess at the same time I don't know the inner workings, so I'm talking about something I don't know about. I'm just making an assumption from what I know, what I do know, if that makes sense.
The other half of this is kind of like that these it's not just that the demand by AI companies and data center manufacturers is incredibly high, but it's also that it doesn't seem like these component makers want to like dramatically increase their production in case there is some kind of crash. So you sort of they don't want to be sitting on millions of unsold inventory, that causes their bottom lines to fall. And so it seems like they are happy to essentially accept these inflated prices and take, and in many cases announce pivots to just making equipment for AI companies and no longer making consumer drives or consumer, is it Crucial or one of the big like RAM brands where it's like, we're done.
Was it SK Hynix?
Just doing this now.
One of them, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's so how are you supposed to combat that as a consumer?
No, you're not. You can't. I mean, the PS5 is another one that feels egregious because they are going to sell this console for the next 4 years until they get a new piece of hardware. Realistically, what this should do is, I think Sony should be looking at it thinking, how can we maximize the hardware we have available right now and not worry about the next generation, because we know that the console generations are getting longer because of the rate at which things are progressing is slowing down. And you can see that even from like graphics cards. We have like NVIDIA who are doing DLSS 5, which is just like putting in AI imagery over the top of like their graphics card created graphics. So like they've kind of hit a wall where it's like, we can't make the gains that we did 10, 15 years ago or every single generation. I don't know if obviously you're a little bit younger than me, Will, so you might not remember the phase of like, I remember going from like NVIDIA's GTX 660 line to the 9 series. So
the 9 series was my first, or maybe like the 7 series.
Every single series from there. So 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, I think they skipped the 8, didn't they? 6, 7, 9, 10. I still think that was like an unbelievable run of like graphical performance gains. And since then, we kind of haven't really had. Well, yeah, we have, but maybe lesser, and the price has been exponentially more. I feel like we're going to get that with everything now, but not everything's going to stay the same. We're not going to get these gains that we had because it's incremental, and they're relying on AI too much to do these things. So there probably is a little bit of Sony execs thinking, okay, let's just bump the price of the consoles to where we need to be to stay where we expect to be in 2 or 3 years' time, so that when we introduce a new console which is powered by AI, we don't look as bad. I don't know. It's a little bit of a jump of logic from me there.
No, but I see your point, and not to stick on gaming for too long, but it does feel like gaming both is like the perfect convalescence of everything that's happening, right? And then also the gaming industry was already kind of in a bit of a crash, I would say. I think you could pretty safely argue with the amount of layoffs we've seen over the last couple of years. And the amount of games we've seen, high profile games we've seen fail, or even high profile games we've seen succeed and that still lead to studio closures. I'm thinking of like Hi-Fi Rush, which, was sort of saved from the brink, but certainly it didn't feel like Microsoft expected that game to be a hit. It was a hit. They still closed the studio. It's you have to wonder though, it's like when the industry is so focused, when the next generation of people coming up and playing video games is so like tied to games that were out when I was in high school. I mean, like Minecraft, I felt late to Minecraft in 2011. Like that's
you were. Like it was 2007, 2008 era it came out.
To 8, 9, something like that. Yeah, and then my I'll never forget my to this day, my best friend. I will never forget when me and my friends were, spent a couple months getting really into Minecraft before we moved on to something else. I will never forget him being like, man, that game's like 2 months away from dying off. Like, he brings this up every now and then. He's like, I was wrong. My nephew, who wasn't born yet, plays Minecraft every day or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
I do wonder if that kind of taps into all of this as well. Though, like, I think very much that people are trying to make the hardware that they have, be it PC, phone, tablet, whatever it is, last longer than it probably did previously.
Right.
Because we kind of hit a point of diminishing returns, and you can't. Yeah, like you say, you can. I do wonder if. Because the games is probably the best analogy of that. There are kids now that have grown up playing Fortnite. They've played the exact same game
Fortnite, Roblox,
every single
Minecraft.
day. Yeah, for a decade.
Right. And these games are low. They're not intensive.
No specification.
Right, exactly. So they can be played on a tablet, anything.
Yeah.
Just throw an old gadget at these kids. They'll play it. They're primarily either cheap or free to play, and they're forever games. Like you can basically, but it's so interesting to see this move, and that's not even bringing up like mobile games or anything like that. But it's like, as when you pair that with the price of consoles getting higher and higher, and the barrier of entry. I mean, if you want a current gen console, your cheapest option is the $450 Switch 2, which is like nuts. $450. I think was the price of the PS4 Pro. And now it's the entry level model. It's so if you want to get into traditional video games that aren't live, like these live service free to play behemoths, you're even if you're just a fan, like if you're buying this for your kid or whatever, it's like you're looking at, instead of a couple $100s to get. I mean, like I remember my PS2 I got on my 10th birthday. I was late to it. This was 2005. I was late to the PS2, just like I was late to the PS1, because I was 5 years old and my family got one. So right around the time the PS2 came out, that thing was $100, right? Like that, because it was near the end of the cycle. That thing was $100 for the Slim. I picked up a bunch of greatest hits games. I probably, all told, got like all of that for like $150, like 3 or 4 games in a console. And now that's 2 video games, right? Like, like what are you gonna like? I worry about the idea of this even sustaining itself if the barrier of entry becomes unobtainably high for children who need to grow into being video game playing adults, or else they're not going to have any nostalgia for it or interest in it. They're just going to do, or if they do, it'll just be for the 3 games they played because they played initially. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, obviously tying it to smartphone stuff, I do wonder if it's kind of like you buy a phone, for instance, and I think this probably is why so many people use iPhones, especially in the US, is because you kind of get into I don't want to say routine, it maybe is the best way to describe it. So you have, let's go back 10 years, for instance. I genuinely do not think most people use their phones differently than they did 10 years ago. We still use applications.
I've been thinking a lot about this.
We use applications,
that I feel like
right?
The last time I really started that, 2013, 14 was the last time it was like you'd get a new phone and it sort of changed how you used it. It's like, go back to my, 10 years ago, I had an S7 Edge. Has how I use Android really changed that much since
Probably
the S7
not,
Edge?
Right?
No.
And then the prices have gone up 4 times the
but-
price. Like the same phone is 4 times the price. I do wonder if, well, maybe not quite 4 times the price. Let's say 3 times the price for argument's sake. I wonder if that is now going to start to play more of an effect in, because it feels like it hasn't, because I guess the iPhone in particular continues to break sales records every year almost. Right. And I kind of figured that would have happened, that would have stopped happening a long time ago. And I kind of feel like maybe, I don't necessarily think Apple will do a big price hike. I think they've, in some respects, the iPhone 17 was obviously not affected by the current kind of economic uncertainty we have currently. Right. But I do wonder if they might have to do that next year for the base model. They might have to bump the price up of the base model. But because last year they may have preempted this, I'm sure they'll have analysts that would have been aware of certain aspects and seen where AI was going. They made probably the best base model that is For argument's
No,
sake, we can sit here and take it down to piece by piece, but I do genuinely think the iPhone 17 is a fantastic offering if you are interested in iOS.
In comparison to the phones it's on sale against right now, the S20, the base S26 is $100 more for the same. Like it starts at $256, but it's $900, and the Pixel 11 or Pixel 10, Pixel 11, is $800, but starts at 128 gigabytes of storage. So like it's. Those are, I would say, the two closest comparisons, the two phones trying to be the iPhone, the base model iPhone for Android, sort of. And yeah, it's technically Apple's I mean, I think it was on last week's Pixelated that I was like, I joked of like, it's so weird that we were talking about the Apple Foldable. And I'm like, a few years ago, I would have agreed with you that like, the Apple Foldable is $2,500 plus. And it's like, but they're weirdly not. The Apple taxes sort of went away. I mean, with a handful of exceptions,
caught up, haven't they? I feel like market forces have mean everyone else has caught up now, and it does mean that. Yeah, I think this kind of poses a problem as well for any tech journalist out there or anyone who is interested in tech. When you get asked these tech questions, what should I get in terms of buying it? And I'm always cautious to suggest a specific Android phone, mostly because I do think that there's so many differences between them that certain things might annoy you. Say, for instance, I say go here in the UK specifically, go get an Oppo phone because it's good price, good camera, good battery, good charging, software not so great. Go get a Pixel, you get maybe not the best battery, a fairly competent camera, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I do think now it's going to be harder to recommend certain products because of their pricing, unless they go on sale. And for me, it's always been a case of, what do you currently use? If you have an iPhone, just kind of stick with it. Like, and it's going to get worse and worse if these price hikes continue. Yeah. Which is annoying, really, because I love to champion what Android can do for people. I agree. But it's getting a bit of a strange situation. Like I say, if we start to see other Android brands really, really lean into these price hikes, and Apple's just like, nah, we're not going to do it, then that might be a really, really bad look, and it could change the complexion of the market in ways that we didn't expect. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what the mobile market looks like in 12 months, frankly, because like I'm realizing I didn't include this, but I believe Motorola's G series has seen a handful of price hikes, some coming with new models and some not. But those phones are, the budget field is going to get hit hardest. Horrendously. Is what every analyst has been saying. And nothing, I had this written down but didn't read it. Nothing has said, they haven't done it yet, but has said in January that they're going to have to raise prices this year on existing models. Like, I don't know. And so it does become tricky where it's like, if the floor is getting pushed up from $200, $300, $400 to $400, $500, $600, you're some of that market is just being cut out entirely, and they're going to be, I guess, just pushed to refurbs and holding on to their current device, right? Like that's if there are no more new phones being made for $200 or $300, and that's the price demographic you're in, then like you have to start looking at like eBay or Swappo or things like that. And then if you can make that jump, do you just look at it and go, well, I don't really want to spend this much, but like if I'm already spending $600 on the phone that used to be $400, do I just jump to something like an iPhone and just say, or like, because the iPhone 17e is $600. Like, does that catch people? It's weird. It feels
would
like
not have been. Yeah.
It wedefinitely feels like we're playing into specifically on this side of the fence, they're playing into Apple's hands so much more than you actually anticipate, because like you say, there is almost a I think from some people there is a reluctance to go to iPhone. They've used Motorola for years and they don't want to spend that much money, but now there's as you say, the Apple tax doesn't necessarily exist like it used to. Right. They've kind of played a blinder without, like, they've played the field so well without actually having to try. I personally think that a lot of people in general anyway, and I think I've suggested this in multiple times when I've talked about in videos, articles, all that kind of stuff, is last year's best phone is usually where you'll get the most value for money. So for instance, S25 Ultra now is, I've seen them as low as $650 here in the UK, and sometimes you'll get a free watch with that and maybe some earbuds or a discount if you do buy it on a mobile phone contract, aka cell plan. You can get some phenomenal deals on the S25, and because we're getting I think I said it a minute ago, is a moment ago, is the diminishing returns on the things that we buy.
Right.
You can get so much more for your money if you're patient. So this is like the patient buyer's perfect kind of purchase point,
it's weird, right? Because some products have shifted to be patient, and some products that used to, like consoles that used to be patient, have switched to buy it now. Like, if you can, buy it now.
Topsy-turvy market, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree with it's like well, and especially on the mobile side with how unchanged most generations are. I mean, you mentioned the Ultra, but if you're not an Ultra fan, if you're looking at the S26 or S26 Plus, you are losing almost nothing by going a generation back.
Yeah. You're losing money. You're losing money. You're basically paying more for less. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, if you were stuck between the S25 and the S26 today, and it was like, you know, full price $900, or like you could get the S25.
I reckon
like
you could get it under 500. I think you could get it under 500.
Probably. And it's like, what do you even lose? It's like nothing. A slightly slower chip, but like, are you going to top out the Elite versus the Elite Gen 5? No. The cameras are virtually the same. Samsung always does a little software tuning that makes things slightly improved over the last generation, but not enough to really matter. You know, like the battery on the base model this year is bigger, but like, again, it's you have to factor in, like, are you paying 50% more for 5% a better experience? Like, don't do that. Like, look for those. I agree. Look for and maybe this is a good place to transition into talking about like what you and I are doing about these price hikes and what other people should do, basically, both on the mobile side and just like in general on gadgets. I
think, like I say, for most people, if you can't hold on to what you already have, which is not always feasible, sometimes things happen. Like one of my friends, he is an iPhone user. I was chatting to him about this weekend. He had I think he has a 13 Pro Max, which I know is a lot of people's favorite iPhone ever. He's having severe battery degradation issues. I was like, realistically, you should wait a few more months with that phone. If it's becoming so problematic that you can't use, say, a power bank or something like that during the day, and it's going, like, I think he was using Maps this weekend, and it was degrading like 10% in like 20 minutes. I was like, that's terrible. But you should probably look at getting a battery replacement first if you can. Yeah. Because I do genuinely think there isn't anything exponentially better between the 13 and even the 15. The only thing I did suggest was him, if he was willing to, go and get a refurbished iPhone 15 Pro Max with fairly good battery health, and you get USB-C. If he wants to stay with iPhone, if he wants to go to something else, I did genuinely recommend. I said S25 Ultra is amazing. I think the S25 Ultra is probably the best. It's going to be the best bang for your buck under $700. But it is getting more difficult to recommend people do things because, again, like you said, there's diminishing returns. There's also the fact that certain things cost more because you catch it at the right time or you don't catch it at the right time. It definitely feels like this time of year would usually be where the early portion of the releases pre-Christmas would have come down in price, but that kind of hasn't happened. I personally wouldn't buy a Google Pixel now unless it was under a cert. Say, I would want 50% off. Personally, I'd want 50% off a Pixel now because we're in that kind of like 4 months. 8 months. We're in the last. We're entering
the last third of the Pixel 10's like first year. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a 10A that exists. The 9A has come down a lot, like under $350.
Well, that was my 10A review. Did you find a cheaper 9A? Yeah, man, go buy that. Like just like the 10A is a good phone, but yes, if you find a cheaper 9A, there's no reason not to do it. It's roughly the same phone. Yeah, and I think it kind of gets like the whole discussion I had this weekend kind of gets more like, how do you advise somebody what to buy? Because it's almost like people have so many different expectations from a device. Like, I don't use Google Maps all that often. It sounds ridiculous to say I don't use it that often. But obviously some of my friends will use Google Maps every single day for multiple hours a day. So my use case versus their use case is really difficult for me to put themselves in their position and be like, you should go and get this device. But at the same time, I have a base level of knowledge of how certain phones will perform. Exactly.
But then you have to leverage the pros and cons. Like, for instance, Do you want a good software support window? Do you want a camera that's going to stand toe-to-toe with what you've currently had previously? Or is it going to be enough of an upgrade where you think, oh, wow, this camera's so much better?
Right.
It is a minefield, but I do genuinely think most people should just go and get last year's best phone. Like, just get last year's best phone.
I can't think of get any good phone from last year even. Because I can't think of any device that came out last year that was good that is not good anymore. Not really. And so...
I do on the side of caution with OnePlus because we literally do not know what's going to happen with like support windows and stuff.
Yeah, but nobody's considering a OnePlus phone. That's why they're in this situation.
True.
Sorry, I'm
true.
Sorry.
Touche.
Yeah. The advice I wrote down for this is basically like, and we're kind of approaching the end of this, but it is a little bit of like, do you know you need something now, or maybe you're in. That's a perfect example of like, I know my phone's battery is shot. Is it worth me, especially if it's so easy when you have an iPhone. If you don't have an iPhone, getting a battery replaced is a little more difficult. It's
always been difficult, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than it was, right?
There's an Apple store 20 minutes from me. Like I could go get an iPhone's battery fixed walk out same day with a new one.
Yeah.
And that's not true for, Samsung is your next best bet. And then depending on what phone you have, it usually depends on mailing it. So if you know you're going to need a new phone in 6 months or whatever, like if you see a good deal, if you just see a normal price, like if you can afford it, and I'm not saying put it on a credit card. I'm not saying any of that, but like if you know you have the means to afford it, and this is more of just how you're planning out your financial year. Yeah, it's weird to say, but like it's not a bad idea to like scoop up deals when you see them on things you'll need in 6 months, 12 months, because those prices today's prices are not tomorrow's prices. Right?
Yeah,
like, that's 100% true. And depending on the like laptops, I think are going to get hit really hard. Phones are going to get hit hard. We've already seen, the Switch 2, that is a ticking time bomb on a price hike. Like you can, at bare minimum $50, you can feel it coming. It's like in the air. Things like that. But like, I do think we're approaching the end of that period anyway, where it's going to start being that like anything you would want has probably been hit with a price hike, and it becomes a waiting game of like, will the RAM prices be fixed in 18 months? Will we be able to, will people follow the Raspberry Pi example and drop their prices back to normal if and when this is fixed? Which, it seems like every analyst is kind of like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. This hasn't really happened before. And then on the other side of this, if you don't have the means or you don't think it's worth a full upgrade, extending the lifespan, maybe doing that battery, biting the bullet on not having your main phone for a couple of days or something, like having to use an old backup for 2 days while you get the battery fixed or whatever, like extending the lifespan. I
think you can go even further. Like for sometimes I remember back in the day where I wasn't switching phone what felt like every 3 weeks is if I had an old phone, like let me take the Nexus 6P for example, because that's the last phone where I really did this, and maybe the Note 8 before that, before I really got into this industry properly. I remember getting a new case, getting a phone skin, getting a new screen protector. Yep. Maybe, like I say, I had to change the battery a couple of times on the 6P because, that didn't go very well in terms of that price, but that made such a difference. Made it feel brand new again, or like it made it feel at least remotely close to new. I think those lower cost things that you can do can make a big difference to how your technology feels. 100%. I don't think we're in those, in air quotes, dark days of devices not getting supported. I think that we're in a decent position now where most people who've bought a phone in the last, say, 3 years, at least your phone will be supported beyond potentially the issues that we're going to have with pricing for newer hardware. I do think in general most people should be looking to get deals on slightly older, wait a bit. Being patient does pay off. Currently it isn't like it usually would. I do think we'll go back to that status quo of waiting time, things come down in price because the new shiny things arrived. I look at it like this. I only try and buy like things when I need them or when there's a perceived need. I don't try and preempt it sometimes. But this is probably the only time where I would potentially do that. Luckily, I'm in a position where like I don't need to upgrade my laptop. I have plenty of phones on hand, which is a privilege, and I don't take that lightly. So when I say to certain people and people ask me for advice, I'm always kind of like, this is their money. This is their hard-earned money. I'd still do buy the odd phone here and there because I don't want to be completely alien to the pricing of things and don't want to be completely insulated from it. I think if I go and purchase a new device later this year, likely one of the Pixel 11 models, I will be choosing wisely, definitely. I will be looking and thinking, okay, do I need to have the extra space, storage, for instance? Do I need the top-tier model, which I don't ordinarily go for? Is the base model going to be good enough for everyone? I'll potentially go out and buy a base model Pixel 11 or something along those lines. You may just have to make things stretch a little bit further. I know that's really horrible, harsh truth of what's going on. But again, if you've got a PS5, that's fine. It's not going to be any different. If you're going to pick it up for Christmas, go and get a used one. Definitely go and look at a used PS5 because it doesn't have a battery that's going to degrade.
Yeah.
The internals, as long as it's been taken care of, and with PS5s, you should lay them down, apparently, if you have the OG, because of the liquid metal cooling block.
Oh, good. Mine's been laying down its entire lifespan.
Lay that down. If you get an older model, check that it hasn't been stood up the entire lifespan of it, because it can affect the cooling system in it. So it should be laid down if it's a Gen 1 or I think it's pre-20. Don't quote me on this, but if you're out there listening, check this before you go and buy a used one. It has to be pre a certain year. Because they made a revision and they fixed some of the cooling system inside because of the way the liquid glass can kind of like pool at one end of the CPU. So laying it flat means it should stay level. So yeah, that's one option. If you have a Switch, there's people are still making Switch 1 games. So you don't necessarily need to go and get the Switch 2. If you can get a really good deal on the Switch OLED, which
we've seen those prices. I mean, that's this. I didn't even include this, but I forgot that the Switch. This was a few months ago, right?
Okay.
But the Switch 1 and the Switch OLED went up in price, at least in the US.
Oh God.
The Switch
I didn't even
OLED,
know
I believe, the Switch OLED is $400. So
what?
$50 more gets you.
Okay, get the Switch 2. Get the Switch 2. Yeah. But I feel like the usual. I don't know what it's like in the US. I can't speak from that experience. You can probably allude to this a bit better, Will. In the UK, we tend to have a very good we have what we call a high street where deals are almost rolling constantly. There's so many retailers competing with each other. We don't have a Best Buy. We have lots of other smaller equivalents of those.
Right.
And then we have Amazon as well, which is lowering the price on lots of things because they compete as well with the UK high street. We have supermarkets like Tesco's, like with the Walmarts and that, and we have Tesco's, Asda's. They sell technology. A lot of them. They sell. They don't sell games anymore. A lot of them, but they will sell technology, and they want to sell them at lower rates because effectively they can sell this big box item slightly cheaper than the competition because they know that you're going to go in and buy your groceries as well. So I would take more advantage of that if you're here in the UK. I don't know how that would translate in the US, but maybe around Black Friday you'll start to see things approach, in air quotes, normal pricing. I don't know.
The deal will be what the price was 12 months
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It definitely feels like if you see something that feels out of this world and it isn't a scam, might be one to look at, especially if you're looking at Christmas shopping, holiday shopping in general.
Yeah.
It might be worth doing that a little bit earlier than usual and trying to plan that out.
Honestly, I mean, that fits into the, if you have the means, this is like the rare time where I'm like, I don't know, buy it. I don't know if you win much by waiting, as opposed to just being like, well, I know I'm going to buy this in 6 months, but I do have the money now. It's not going to. Again, I'm not advocating for anybody to put things, to buy things they can't afford, to put payments off for later. Like, don't do that. But if you are in the relatively privileged position of being able to make that decision, I don't think it's a bad one. On your point about like grocery stores, things like that, supermarkets, membership stores, bulk stores, so like your Costco's, your Sam's Clubs. If you're in the US and you're a member of those, like, definitely look there because they often have. There was like a massive, I guess Costco over the weekend was cleaning out their a bunch of their Switch 2 games that they had. So like you could get like Kirby Air Riders and maybe like Donkey Kong and a bunch of other titles for like $30 each, which
That's
I understand
crazy.
is more of a software. I know, but like and apparently people were just walking in and buying the entire, scalpers were walking in and buying the entire lot as much as they could. But like, Yeah, I mean, follow people like he's more gaming focused, but like Wario64 on Twitter, deal accounts like that can really, and he does tweet about tech sometimes, if it's a good deal, and he obviously he's gonna make a commission if you click his link, but he's not just like a generic deals account. I like that he's got some personality, and it always feels a little bit like he's curating a deal as opposed to just like posting it. But you have other places like Wirecutter has a lot of good deals. 9 to 5 Toys has deals every day. I would be remiss if I did not mention our own in-house solution, and they are obviously, Justin is obviously very good at finding that stuff.
I just find sometimes scouring things like Amazon Renewed is also a good option, because you get quite a good warranty system for that, returns options. Usually when it's renewed by Amazon as well, it's not. What I've bought in the past has almost been brand new. It's like someone's opened it, decided they don't want it, and it ends up in the renewed section.
Best kind of refurb.
Kind of refurb. Again, it is refurb, but I think looking in those kind of places is good. What I'm looking at right now is I would love a pair of travel headphones, and in my mind I kind of wanted, as much as I like the Nothing Headphone 1, they're quite heavy for traveling.
Yeah.
So I wanted something a bit plasticky, something I can throw in the bag and it's not an issue. I kind of had my heart set on the Sony XM6.
Yeah.
But I thought those headphones are I think they're here in the UK, they're about £350. I was like, I'm not paying that for a pair of headphones.
$350.
You know what I mean? So I'm looking at the XM5s now because they're about half the price. The audio experience is... I'm
wrong. Sorry, $428
they're even more expensive.
In the US. Yeah. Wow. And that's technically discounted from their $460 list price. So looking at the previous gen, like I think I said before with phones, you can do the same with audio products. I think audio products are a good one because they don't get upgraded enough very often. If you want, like, I always look at it like anything like microphone hardware, camera hardware, they don't change enough. Like, there's a reason why people still use the SM7B. The I'm using an SM58. This mic is from like the 60s. I bought it in 2019. I have never thought about replacing it. I'm pretty sure I could throw it against the wall, and the only thing that would be damaged is my wall. Like, it's I mean, any of that. Well, and so look for those deals on like slightly older existing tech, especially if it's not a phone, if it's not like a thing with like obvious component upgrades, and like, there were upgrades from the XM5s to the 6, but I'm looking at the price on Amazon in the US is $250, and I know people liked the XM6s more than the XM5s, but do I think they liked it $200 more? No,
that's it. You have to put a price on it. You have to put a price on it, sadly. But
and that's you have to look at those upgrades and be like, okay, yes, X is better than Y, but Y is $300 less, and it's only 5% worse. So like, why would you get the exactly.
Price to performance gain is the name of the game, isn't it now? Yeah, 100%. I think we'll probably see a lot more of that over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, but then we might see certain things that come down in price. Like there might be one or two things that we were expected to get a massive price hike, and they either stay the same or start going lower. Maybe there might be another brand who says, do you know what? We'll get market share by kind of going on margin, just basically making no money on it to get products out there. I kind of would love to see how that plays out, because I do think there is going to be some major winners and major losers in that space. So I don't know how that's going to affect smartphones. It could be one of the really big brands that does it. And I kind of thought Samsung might, but... No,
Samsung seems... Well, and Samsung has had... has taken that interesting approach to raising its prices. Nintendo, I mean, we talked about, I said that I feel like a Switch 2 price hike is inevitable, but Nintendo has been kind of interesting in how they've handled launching a console in a, let's say, tumultuous era for prices. So like, I mean, they announced the Switch 2, the full Switch 2 presentation was on Liberation Day. So they like immediately were dealing with new tariffs that they had not expected. And their response to that was not to raise the initial announced price of the Switch 2 in the US, but was to raise all of its accessories by like $5 to $10, which people complained about at the time, but I think was like objectively a better decision than being
100%.
like, okay, yeah, fine. The Switch 2 Pro controller is still $85 instead of $90, but now the console's $50 more. Like I think everybody across the board went out on that. And then you can see them do it again by raising the Switch and the Switch OLED up $50 each to $350 and $400. Where they are clearly trying to kind of spread the damage on their outgoing hardware as opposed to their incoming hardware to get people presumably to buy this thing so that they can spend the next 5 to 8 years selling them Switch 2 software, which I think is smart. Like I think it's smart for Nintendo to try to spread whatever economic instability they're facing across accessories and older hardware as opposed to the thing they need people to buy in right now. Especially like if they can hold on to that until Pokemon next year, if they can wait on a price hike, like that would be big. And like it's, the Switch 2 can play not everything the PS5 and Xbox can, but a lot of it. Like Cyberpunk on that thing looks incredible. We've seen you can go buy Resident Evil 9, Pragmata, like all these new release. I don't need to just name Capcom games, but I did. But all these new release games that are coming, that are multi-platform. It becomes kind of an interesting way to buy into the market.
My thought process is definitely a case of, as we've kind of been saying the entire time, prioritize the things that matter to you most in terms of your experiences. And I think that worrying about the next big thing probably isn't the way to kind of go about your purchases anyway. So make do and mend is a phrase you hear a lot here in the UK. Or I used to when I was younger. Repair, reuse, recycle, whatever it is to make things last longer is probably going to be more financially beneficial to you.
Yeah, it's this is a niche piece of advice, but I think the people listening to this will fall into this category, and I know you will. You probably have a storage, like an M.2 drive in your house you're not using that you can add to your current computer. Like if you're not using a laptop or something, like I found like an older, just like sitting in an unused laptop, like I had 2 M.2 drives in there and I pulled the one out, and it's not a particularly fast drive because it's from 7 or 8 years ago, I think, but it's perfectly fine for storage. And I threw that in my computer and got 512 gigabytes of new storage that wasn't there before. And it's like, stuff like that where it's like, oh, right, like I don't actually need to, upgrade my computer right now or even go buy new components for it. I can upgrade my computer just by reusing what's in my house. Because if you are like myself and Damien, you probably have a lot of like gadgets that you bought a few years ago and maybe have ended up gathering dust because they've been replaced or you don't have a use for them anymore. Like you can find a lot of gold just by digging through your drawers, I would say. Yeah,
because you've already spent that money. Like, don't spend more money when you've already spent it potentially.
Which I'm so bad. God, every time I'm sick, we have so much cold medicine because I'll get sick and it's not recently. Recently, I've been sick for like 2 months, but a lot of times it'll be like, it's been 8 months since my last cold. I guess I got to go to the pharmacy, and then I go to the pharmacy and buy stuff, and I get home and I'm like, I had half of this here, and half of this in a closet. Totally forgot about it. Not expired yet. It's that with gadgets. Like you gotta. It's worth getting organized to know what you have so that you can take. I mean, one of the things I did over the weekend, we're recording this the day it's going to come out on Monday. I since we moved into this house 4 years ago, there's been a box, a moving box, traditional cardboard box, just filled with cables. It was just tangled up cables. And it took me half an hour because they were so tangled to go through all of them and put aside the ones that I can like donate or recycle if possible, and then the ones I'm going to keep. And then genuinely half the box was Ethernet cables, so I had to figure out what I'm going to do with my Ethernet cable collection. But it was like, it's stuff like that where it's like, there's a couple gadgets left that I charge with that are still charged over micro USB that I have. And all of my micro USB cables have been shot. They just don't work well anymore. And I found like 5 new ones in there. Thank God I didn't buy more. Like I had them. I knew I had them, but like, it's things like that where it's like, you probably have the thing that you're looking for, sitting around your house that you can make do with.
Yeah, I'm like that with DisplayPort cables, but I feel like it's very much a case of
3 HDMI cables.
yeah. You get the things out of the box, get all the accessories out of the box. if you are going to make a big purchase this year, get rid of, make sure the thing you're selling is going to be pristine, but you resell the things that you're not using, because you can probably recoup a lot of the money. And I need to tell myself this more often, because sometimes I'll buy something to replace something, and I'm like, I have that old microphone there that I'm not going to use, even if it is 5%, 10% of the value of the product I'm going to be replacing it with. It does start to add up over time.
And this is the final piece of advice I had written down. Perfect transition. Don't auto trade in. If you're like getting a new phone or tablet or whatever, and there's trade-in options through Best Buy or your carrier or whatever, don't automatically do that. Like, see if you can get more money these days by selling it yourself. Like, even if you have to give eBay that 10% cut or whatever, like, you might, if Samsung is only offering you $200 for your phone, and you look on eBay and your phone is going for $350, put the work in to sell it. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense to like not. Those trade-in bonuses have gotten smaller and smaller, and like with tech now in such high demand and these prices rising, like your current gadget, the S23 you want to upgrade from is also kind of going up in value because the floor of these phones is going up, which like sucks for everybody a little bit, but also, it's one of the few bright spots, or one of the ways you can mitigate your own personal damage is to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to rip anybody off, but I'm rather than taking the easy $200 from Samsung, I will put the work in and get $400 or whatever.
Yeah,
like, I think that's it's you gotta kind of do it because it's going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, you got to play the game. Game.
Yeah, a perfect way to say it. Probably a perfect way to end this. Do you have any final thoughts on how you're handling it? Advice? Where we're going.
Trying not to spend any money. Cancel your Amazon Prime when you're not using it. That will save you a lot of money. Like, don't
go through your subscriptions.
Yeah. As ridiculous as it sounds, they do start to add up. Like, you can,
and they're all going up too. I didn't even include those, but they're all getting price hikes. I mean, we've seen. I can't think of a streaming service. We just saw YouTube. All of these companies are raising their prices, and you don't have to continue to pay Netflix every month.
No. Exactly.
Well, not a lot of bright spots, not a lot of good news, but hopefully
I'm trying to give positive info in between.
We've given somebody an idea on what to do. Maybe spark. They're like, I do have an old M.2 drive sitting in a drawer or something. Like, I don't need to rush out and pay $800 for a half terabyte of storage. Damien, thank you so much for coming on this adventure with me to talk about prices.
No problem.
I've had so many thoughts on prices lately, because I think it is such like an interesting. I've never told people not to wait to buy something before now. It's so strange.
I think this is where being a penny pincher is really going to pay off in the long term, for definite.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, do what you can for now, but also make do with what you have. Because I think we're going to kind of have to bunker down a little bit for a little bit, like get through this, and hopefully in a year or two, or eventually this all resolves itself. Because we certainly do not have the ability to impact RAM and storage manufacturing. What you do have the ability to do is watch all of Damien's videos on the 9 to 5 Google YouTube channel, which is where you'll find all of his videos. Damien, anything else you want to plug?
No, not really. I think I don't know why you want to watch the videos, but go watch as much content as you can on the channel. That would really help me out.
Free with free.
We're not charging.
It's free.
We're not charging for that.
Sorry about the YouTube ads. Probably YouTube sure loves its ads, but what can you do?
Yeah.
Thank you, Damien, for coming on. You'll be back on the next few months or something. It's always good to have you on.
Talking more about budgets.
I just love bouncing ideas off of you, because I feel like so often we come to the same place but from different origin points. I think that's so interesting. You spark ideas in me, so it's awesome. Thank you so much for joining. And,
it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll catch up again in a few months.
Yeah, in a few days' time.
Well, you could go listen to us every week on Pixelated.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that's it for this week's Sideload. We solved inflation. You're welcome, America. Thank you to Damien. As always, a wonderful guest, one of my favorite recurring guests. Look forward to having him on sometime in the next few months to talk about who knows, whatever is going on at that point. As for this show, you can find, rate, and review the Sideload on the podcast platform of your choice. Share the show with a friend if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to 9 to 5 Google on YouTube, both for full video versions of this show. If you aren't watching the video version, you can do that. And also, obviously, for everything Damien and Jordan are doing, they're crushing it, as always. I know I say this all the time, but they are. As always, the best place to reach me is will@9to5mac.com. Feedback is always welcome, as are guest suggestions. And go check out Pixelated. I did a plug last week. I'll do another one this week. We talked a little bit about it on the show. If you enjoyed me and Damien, it's the two of us and Abner talking through the week's news in a Google and Pixel friendly lens. It's a lot of fun. That's it for this week. I'm still not sure who's on the show next week. We might try to get somebody on to talk about OnePlus, because what's going on with OnePlus, but that's next week. Until then, we will see you in the next one. Bye. Oh, and go Sabres.